I've got a lot of friends and family that are gay. My dad and my brother are both gay. Basically, our whole family fancies men. That's the little cheat I use to remember who's gay and who isn't. My dad was in the closet for a really long time, and for him, pride's very important because he wasn't able to be himself for a very long time. So to have a space where he can be himself and no one judges him and everyone else is being themselves, it's really important to him. Whereas my brother has grown up in, he came to London when he was quite young and he's lived in quite a sort of cosmopolitan area, and he hasn't had the same kind of like, the same feeling of restriction as my dad. My brother always was quite anti-pride and kind of said, well, I don't see why I need to show that I'm a proud gay person by wearing fairy wings and wearing hot pants. Like, I'm trying to fight against all those stereotypes.
I think pride is wonderful. I think the more that people discuss who they really are about their sexuality, the more it enables it to be free for everyone and not to be some kid, 10, 12, 15 years old in some little hometown trapped, feeling like I'm the only one. So the more pride that gets out there, it's just as more vehicle for people who have these feelings. They know there's light at the end of the tunnel. Dozens of kids have committed suicide feeling like there is no hope for them.
I came out through the punk scene, so that was my family, my support. Most people come out and go straight into the gay scene, and that becomes their kind of main network support group. So because I did it differently, my family is kind of the punk scene. And when I go out in the gay scene, I have fun. I don't know, the one thing that everyone identifies with each other is just the fact that they're gay. And I see, for me, being gay is a part of who I am, but it doesn't represent me as a whole. So I think I'm kind of, split between the middle at like queer and punk.
There's this kind of like image of gay people that even gay people have. I know gay clubs and stuff like that and the kind of mainstream music and that they listen to, and like, it doesn't appeal to me at all. I feel completely alienated by that kind of like, heaven and all this stuff. I've never been down to any of that stuff just because fucking music sucks.
I was at Berlin actually, and I was at the Pride Parade there, and I'm not gonna lie, I had a bit of a cry. It it took me by surprise. And I actually looked over at my friend and she was like, I was like, okay, that's fine. I was really overwhelmed by the amount of joy and participation by people from everywhere, from all walks of life. How joyous it was and how important it was. The very essence of it is celebrating freedom and acceptance, and that is just one of the most beautiful things. And also it made me sad that we have to celebrate that and that we have had to come so far. And then I was kind of, feeling really emotional, feeling really great. And then there was one thing missing for me, and that was like a presence of any kind of alternative music in general, and punk rock being the music that sort of runs through my veins.
In our community, in the punk rock scene, there's, if not even more than half of us identify as queer, like gay, bisexual, and to have the space to join the parade as a punk rock community is fucking exciting.
It's unfortunate that it's taken this long. How many punks and queer punks and out of punk has queerness survived so many years, and just the most amazing stuff has come out of punk. Fucking Divine, are you kidding me? And just the John Waters people, Leigh Balry, like all these total freaks. It's like they were amazing. Those are our people. Like this is what we come out of. Even if you want to go and say, oh, Boy George and Marilyn and that whole scene, that came all out of punk.
I knew that, the punk rock community, that's kind of what it's about. It's like everyone has their resources and they club in and just make it work. So the sound system guys, DSI Studios, they came with all their kit, well up for it. Like I was sitting with Keith on a few little afternoons, like planning out how we were going to fit it all on the back of this truck. The guys that ran the lorry company, I mean, they gave me like a discount, which was awesome. You know, they're nothing to their normal freight lorry service, like, but they were loving it. Went over to my mate Jim, amazing artist, carpenter, designer, told him the sort of thing I want. He came up with wicked designs. I knew already the bands that I wanted to play. The crowd, because obviously a massive part of this is the moving crowd behind it. Like that's what live music's about. It's about interaction with the crowd and feeling it. You know, like the parade happens behind barriers and people loving it, like yeah, from the sides, but you know, that's like being at a stadium show. And DIY punk rock is about feeling it, breathing it. And I knew, even if we had 5 people following this float, that it would be immense, because how can it not be? Like they're seeing their best mates and their favourite bands up there playing, and they just love that anyway, wherever they are.
Get your skanking shoes on!
Once it was actually fully been accepted, I announced it, and they only gave me that confirmation about a month to go to the thing. So I was like, okay guys, this is happening. And everyone was like, it's a bit like, where has this come from? And I was like, I've actually been sitting on this for ages, but it's happening.
I come from New York City, and we had the Stonewall riots, and that was really a turning point in the history of gay rights. People with different sexual orientations standing up for themselves and really fighting against authority, fighting for equality, and that's always kind of been in the background of growing up.
The Stonewall riots happened in June of 1969. At the time, there was a massive crackdown going on like gay bars. So there were police raids all the time. People were getting kind of thrown out of bars, revoking licenses of places that basically served homosexuals. And there was this one place called the Stonewall Inn, which is where the name comes from, where the police took it a bit too far. There was a really violent arrest of a woman, and it attracted a massive crowd, and then they were kind of incited to riot. It kind of formed a new way of protesting. Like, up until that point, it had been all societally approved ways of protesting, and this was more, damage to property, riots, very like, we're here, we're queer, get the fuck used to it. From those riots, groups like the Gay Liberation Front and media that specifically advocated for queer rights was made. People of colour and trans individuals were kind of like leaders of the movement.
The Stonewall riots catapulted sexual liberation from the Dark Ages into a new era. It's huge.
It's a very inspiring story to me. I mean, I think having the bravery to fight against the police, it's just a very important thing, especially when it comes down to how you want to live your life.
The marches that we go on today, they were a commemoration of that. They're held every year in late June, as close as you can get to the anniversary of the day of the Stonewall riots. And that's kind of lost in today's colourful, carnivalesque atmosphere where, you know, HSBC can have a float going down and Bacardi Breezer will be selling their latest drink.
There has been boycott of Pride from many punks. Totally understandable. It's a massive corporate event now.
Been kind of co-opted by a commercialization or a kind of corporate presence, and also a kind of negative political presence, which seems to undermine some of the core values of what Pride historically has been about.
You know, it's this whole process of like living in a democratic society. You get all the banks and corporations want to get the gay vote, they want the pink pound, so they kind of show up. It's a bit boring to watch like Barclays Bank and then Santander and all these kind of corporations.
I don't want to say that companies shouldn't be present at Pride, because that's great that they want to associate their company's name with celebrating queerness. And if they have that also reflected in their internal policies, their company mandate, that's really progress, and that's how we can measure progress as a society. But I think the cynical part of me will not help but think that why do UKIP or eBay or Barclays want to have a float at Pride? It's about brand awareness. I don't really think it's actually about changing the fabric of their operations.
The Levi's float, they just had people walking around holding signs being like, I love a guy in Levi's, I love a girl in Levi's. And most of the time it was just like dudes holding I love a girl in Levi's. It was nothing to do with queer pride. It was just like, Levi's are cool. And we're okay people because we're not angry at the gays. Like, that was it.
It's a people's celebration and therefore should be of the people. If you're gonna like arrogantly just plaster their name and their logos over everything, it doesn't sit right. It's not like that's not necessary.
I remember a bunch of punks, there was a fest in Ohio and we crashed their pride parade, and it was just a ton of punks. And I remember this group of older gay men that were in near tears because I think they thought the activism was dead, and it died with all the people who died from HIV and AIDS, and seeing this young group of queers just going off, I think just filled them with just like emotion, and just seeing that and just going, this is right. You know, what we're doing is right. We have to always be like that. We can't let our guard down, ever. You know, we're not just a marketing group, fuck you.
You get loads of DIY walking groups, but the fact that it's a float and it's the only one with full live band, so you know, that's like quite a statement. And it being DIY is a message of we want to reclaim our culture. In the same way that you want a few really radical people working their way into Parliament so they can change it from the inside. You know, the same thing, like play the game to a point and then just be like, nah, we're here. Like, you know, like crawling in and then just like pin out your spikes like, when you're in. Like, ha, we got in. As long as you are not compromising what it is you went there to do, then I don't think there's a problem with it, with engaging with it. If something's really important to you, why would you just want to keep it to yourself and the people that think exactly like you? The most antagonistic thing you can do is take that out outside of its comfort zone.
Guys, that song. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. What can I say? Thank you for showing up again. By the way, eBay, I don't really know what the fuck you're doing in here.
Yeah, eBay, thanks for being with us the whole
Give
time.
me a fucking answer.
For some reason, that
You know, we're always being followed by that cloud and that sort of stereotype of what a punk is supposed to be according to the media, right? And, you know, we've been painted in so many different ways, so kind of breaking away from that is always a part of our challenge, right? But, you know, I also feel that it's okay, it's like with gay, you know? It's like there's so many stereotypes about being queer or being a gay man or a lesbian or a trans person. It's like so much comes with that. It's not just you, the individual. Everyone's looking and thinking about everything they've ever fucking heard about it and pasting that on you or trying to.
Man, when I tell people I'm gay all the time, they're like, oh, I don't expect that. You don't kind of look like a gay. Was like, well, I do look like a gay person looks like, because I am a gay person. But like, so this is, you know what I mean? Let this inform your opinion of your future views of gay people, because like, surprise.
Some people actually think that that is, like, skinheads and punks are inherently Nazi. And they're surprised to find out that it's all about peace, love and unity, just in a really rowdy, angry way.
And a lot of those sort of bands, the oi skinhead bands, a lot of them are my friends, and they've always known that I'm openly gay, and nobody gives a fuck. And as it goes, if anybody said anything, they'd be the first to jump into a fight and beat the shit out of somebody for saying something.
I'm proud that there's a fuck ton of young trans kids coming out all over the place and in the punk scene. It's huge. Like, I mean, you'll go to a show in Chicago and there's 30 deep, like at a show, some little basement show, and you're like, oh man, that didn't happen 20 years ago. I'm proud about stuff like that.
If you look at spaces like DIY Space, where we are right now, there's regularly nights where there's like queer punk festivals. So like, for example, Bent Fest, but also in South London you have clubs like Passionate Necking, where it's really about encouraging people of all different sexualities and genders to come together and party.
In the late 70s, when punk came around, it emerged out of the winter of discontent. There was strikes everywhere, the economy in the UK was in the gutter, it was a desperate time. And the young people of that generation were coming into their adulthood and finding that they faced no future. And in the 70s, that was a slogan of the punk, no future. Now, 3-4 generations later, 40 years since punk first emerged, we don't use that expression anymore, no future, because punks think they got a future, punks want a future.
A lot of people out there in society think that punk just doesn't exist anymore. It just was something that happened in the 70s. It's in a museum now. But you know, we all know that punk is alive and kicking, and there's so much like thriving punk culture, whether it's in the kind of traditional punk sense or more just like, you know, radical music of all different kinds of genres. London is actually a great place to live right now, and if you want to explore like all the different facets of punk, there's so much happening.
It's like a bullshit filter as well. If you know, the spikes and like all real ripped jeans and stuff, if someone sees that and like, oh, you fucking dirty cunt or whatever, then like, good. You don't want to talk to a guy who's like, that keeps those dickheads away, you know what I mean? It's like, if some guy can see you with this kind of alternative look and think you're less of a person because of that, then that's not a person you want to be wasting your breath on, you know what I mean?
Involving punk rock for the music, for the energy, for the fact that punk rock in itself, in its essence, is queer because it's anti-establishment, no labels. Like, it's a melting pot of non-conformists and freedom fighters and rascals. Like, how can it not be? It's queer.
And like I'm saying, in New York City, the punk scene, why it started there in particular is probably because there was an outspoken group of gay people that were willing to fight for their rights, and they were outcasts. And when other people came along and saw these weird bands were coming out of CBGBs and coming out of Maxwell's Kansas City, the West Village and the Village was very much known as a gay area, you know, and that's where punk started.
The Roxy, so that was sort of like London CBGBs. Started off Shagaramas, which was a gay stroke transvestite bar. Susie used to go down Shagaramas before punk. Bowie apparently used to go down there. Yeah, but the early punks went to Louise's and the gay clubs around here. But they used to go to gay clubs a lot because they wouldn't get, you could dress weirdly, no one would take a bit of notice, and you wouldn't get beaten up in there. So you could be yourself in there.
Every punk should just, by default, be a pride punk. There's always something to make fun of, or some reason to pick on somebody else. And I don't think that belongs in the punk scene.
Punk rock is like a social movement. It's one of the great art forms of our times, going back from Dada and surrealism and all this sort of stuff. Punk is part of that. Because they have that political side, a lot of punks are anarchists, a lot of punks take on sort of radical politics. All the oppression of society that we see, punk has a stake in. Punk makes a stand with those people, every form.
If you think about changing the world, that's when apathy sets in and we all become nihilists. And essentially, as punks we kind of are nihilists. But apathy, no, I think apathy is a dangerous one.
Every queer person who's open about it will have dealt with some shit in their lives. I've been spat on, I've been slapped around for it. I went to an all-girls school where I was, I think, the only out lesbian at one point, and it was pretty uncomfortable, but it's all right now. I'm in the punk scene. No one's gonna make me feel uncomfortable based on that. So it's not really an issue at this point in my life.
It's the only space you can channel your anger in, especially through music and through noise. It's not something you can do any other way, really. It's just you want to be who you are, and you feel frustrated and helpless by everything going on in society and around the world. And where else can you vent, really? Just get into kickboxing or punk rock, I guess.
It can be a very angry, rowdy music. And so that automatically makes people think, it's not about love, it's about hate. But I think the important thing to remember is that you can't hate something without loving something else. It comes from the same place. Passion comes from love, and that could be a negative passion, it can be a positive passion. So everything we do comes from love.
For the foreseeable future, not to sound cliche, but I think I'll be a punk until I die,
These crooks and toonies have found a sense of purpose. They gamble away our lives and turn the tables. So you give me an opportunity. Disguise as some hooks I see. Somebody fly, somebody fly, somebody fly away with me. Somebody smile, somebody smile, somebody smile back at me. But red rose bitterness got me so far. But red rose bitterness got me all over London town. All over London town, I walk along right now. All over London town, I can know like a tree these days, as pawns in a windless game. Time flies when you're wandering, and let's stay with nothing to gain. I can know like I hold myself to blame, and I think that I could have been. I can know like I hold myself to blame, and I think that could be. Chant to the sound, chant to the sound, chant to the sound of the granite crunch. I walk from the ground, walk from the crowd, walk from the crowd and raise my voice. Uncertainty.
You're rejecting something because it's corporate, because it's taken over. You mustn't reject that. You must fight for your stake in that. And Tally's done exactly that, and it should be replicated all around the world. Punks need to get involved in this stuff and organise their own floats and their own moment to stand up and say, oi, we stand in solidarity with the memory of Stonewall. We stand in solidarity with every person who faces harassment in society. We stand up in solidarity with humanity, because that's what punk's all about. It's something like over 70 countries around the world, it's still illegal to be gay. And in some of those countries, being gay is punishable by death. Well, if that's the case, then you have a duty to stand up and march through the streets of your city where you can do that. There is a common humanity amongst us, and we've got to fight for it.
I know we've still got a really long way to go. It's here and in other countries, there's the idea that we're not free until everyone's free. But if it wasn't for those rights and those people, homosexuality might not have been decriminalised in the States in 2003. Same-sex marriage might not have been passed. And it sounds so corny, but people like me wouldn't have the right to be who we are and love who we choose. And so I think it's one of those events that we probably need to remember a little bit more.
Looking out onto seeing some of my favourite people in the world on and around this float, just doing what they do best and with complete reckless abandon and just living it and loving it and owning it.
It was just the back of a truck. It was really hastily done and put together and looked very DIY and a bit scummy, whereas everyone else had like fancy banners and shit. But it looked like we were having a lot more fun and really being a part of it more than the people who were paid to go there by their company.
It was the biggest ever turnout to London Pride. And it coincided with a week before there was the Orlando shootings and the day before like Brexit was announced. And I think people were yearning for this feeling of togetherness and rejecting the idea of otherness.
And yeah, I mean, a lot of really confused looks coming our way as well, not really sure what we were doing, why we were hitting each other, if we were fighting. But it was just lovely. It felt like I was in the middle of a massive family.
And every now and again, you do look around and you suddenly see things like a Lloyd's Bank or a Starbucks or something that reminds you of exactly where you are. You're in one of the biggest cities in the world. So in the heart of capitalist London, you're in the middle of the road with all your friends dancing to some music.
Music is community and culture, really. This kind of music anyway. And that is people's lifeline. Family, community, same thing. People find solace and peace and belonging in these places.
And it really gave you a sense of pride, a real sense of achievement, a sense of solidarity, a sense of like punks coming together to do something really positive and really creative. And it's that DIY attitude that, you know, you can make something happen if you just put your mind to it and you just work together.
It would be really cool if we could go back to the way that it was. I'm not saying that we should be rioting and setting fire to people's property every Pride parade, but I think more things like we saw with the Pride Punks float would be, yeah, harking back to the DIY roots and the way it was meant to be from the beginning, just people expressing themselves.
When you're in the scene, you see the passion that emanates from every single person, what they're fighting against and what they're fighting for.
It was just amazing being there with people who have nothing to promote. They're just there because they want to be themselves and be accepted as themselves. And actually, not really giving a fuck if they're accepted or not, just expressing themselves. And, you know, change never happens from people being polite and acceptable, does it?
Break the boundaries, tear down the walls, live as one love. Stand tall, Jack survives and giants fall. Through our streets, our world, our call. Live together, stand together, learn to row and trust each other. People on the ground, we run this town. Stand as one, no creed, no colour. Heart of the street, coming on strong, coming on strong, coming on strong, coming. The heart of the street, coming on strong. Coming on strong, the heart of the street, coming on strong.